Hello, and welcome to another edition of Mayday, Wednesday, January 21st, to be exact. It is a show about the show. Oh my gosh, so many things to talk about today. We got some breaking news. We got the Hall of Fame. We got some leaked comments about the upcoming lockout. We have a trade that finally happened, all of which we are going to cover in this hour of the show. If you are coming back to Mayday for the first time of this year, the 2-hour show has been split into 2 separate hours. One is on Wednesday right here on Foul Territory, and the other will be over on Trevor May Baseball, my YouTube channel, on Friday. Same time for both shows, noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern, rather. So hope to see you over there if that works better for you, or it's good to have you right here. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are trying to continue to grow this thing. And the only way, or one of the best ways you can do it is by hitting the little subscribe button. So we appreciate it. Appreciate you doing that here on Foul Territory. Okay, let's hop right into it because so many things to cover, so little time. First up, I want to talk about the Hall of Fame, and then we're going to get right into the breaking news, okay? So bear with me here. I write this show, and then stuff happens. It is a work in progress. All right, we're hopping right into the Hall of Fame voting and the changes that we have to the system. It's all very interesting. The Hall of Fame voting just concluded, and we have 2 brand new members being inducted in the class of 2026. That is this gentleman and this gentleman. We have Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones officially in the Hall of Fame. Carlos Beltran led the way with 80.42% of the vote. That is 350 overall, and this was his 4th year on the ballot. Then Andrew Jones, widely considered as one of the, if not the best defensive center fielders ever to do it, gets in with 333 votes. That is 78.4%. Just to remind you, you need over 75% in order to get inducted, and you need over 5% to continue to be on the ballot year over year. You get 10 years on the ballot, and then after that, when you drop off the ballot at any point, you can be considered for the Legends panel later. So there is a second chance, but it is much less likely. Now, anyone who's been following this thing knows there was a ton of new guys on the ballot this year. We are seeing a new crop of potential players into the Hall of Fame. And there's a lot of interesting things about this process. Now, I want to start by saying, if we're going statistics only, which as we all we've talked about this on the show a lot, we all know very well that that's not the only thing considered. But Andrew Jones is probably due and should have been put on a while back. But Beltran, it's kind of hard to argue with his statistics. The reason that he probably was held back for those first few years is more controversial and more of a scandal related, which is what we are going to talk about in the future. But there's 2 kind of big questions before we go over everyone else and where they stand that I want to talk about today. And that is how controversy is playing in and how we're making those, how the writers are starting to have their opinions change or not change their opinions over time, and why it seems like some people who have controversy attached to them, even if it's similar controversies as others, are getting in and the others are not. And there's a whole conversation to be had about that. And then there's another interesting thing happening now where we're having so many guys being put on the ballot all at once that it's going to get really crowded. And there is an interesting dynamic that might be happening because, as we've noticed in the last couple of years, the standards for what is considered a Hall of Fame player are going to continue to change because careers are just getting shorter. So you cannot compare the longevity of a starting pitcher to like Nolan Ryan anymore. Like, it's just not going to happen that way from now on. So we're going to answer those 2 questions, but first, let's talk more about some of the highlights of this voting process. We have a few guys that are close that have a very good chance, I think, maybe in future years. We have Chase Utley in his 3rd year. He got 59.1%. Andy Pettitte, who has been tied to some scandal a little bit too, 48.5%, but not as much. Felix Hernandez in that group, he's in the second He's in his second year. He's in that group of a shorter career, but was super dominant during that career. We're talking the Tim Lincecums of the world as well. That's probably the bottom of that group. But like, is 10 years long enough? Will it ever be long enough? And will some players get left behind because they were in that liminal space, right? So continuing on, Alex Rodriguez got 170 votes, still sitting at about 40% after his 5th year. Manny Ramirez is officially out. He's off the ballot at 165 at 38.8%. Bobby Abreu is at 131. He's at 30% in his 7th year, so only 3 more years to kind of recoup some of that. Jimmy Rollins, 25%. Cole Hamels, 23% his 1st year. He is actually, Cole Hamels is the only new ad this year that will continue next year because you have to have only 5%. So there were 12 new guys added to the ballot, and 11 of those 12 guys got under 5%. And that's what I'm talking about. Those 11 guys are Ryan Braun, 15 votes, 3.5%. Edwin Encarnacion, 6 votes. Sin-Shu Chu, 3 votes. Matt Kemp, 2 votes. Hunter Pence, 2 votes. Rick Porcello, 2 votes. Alex Gordon, 1 vote. Nick Markakis, 1 vote. And then Gio Gonzalez, Howie Kendrick, and Daniel Murphy all got 0. So of the 12, 11 of them will not have another chance next year. And that is what I'm talking about. So like one thing that's interesting, the highlights of this is Torrey Hunter gets to stay on even though he was the lowest percentage-wise of everyone who is in their like they've had multiple years on it, and he had 8.7%. So he's going to get another chance even in his 6th year here. I'm a huge Torrey Hunter fan. Great teammate, amazing player, and he stays alive. Maybe there'll be a push in the future. Maybe there'll be a lighted crop, but it's looking even harder. He's got a steep hill to climb. Couple interesting ones, and let's thank you, DK, for throwing these in there. My stats against everybody on this list. Dustin Pedroia, he was 2 for 5 with 2 doubles. That's batting 400. Torrey Hunter was 3 for 6 with a double and 1 strikeout. That's batting 500. Ryan Braun was 1 for 3 with a single and an RBI. I remember that. That's 333. It's not looking good for old Trevor right now. Edwin Encarnacion, he had 2 hits and 12 plate appearances, but there was a walk, so he's 2 for 11. There we go. There's a. I'd say I won that matchup, so 1 for 4. Sin-Shu Chu was 1 for 1. Lost that one. Hunter Pence, 0 for 1. Won that one. So 2 for 6, 2 out of 6. Alex Gordon, he is 3 for 12, hitting 250 with 3 strikeouts and a few walks. I'd say that's a wash. I'll take 250. And Nick Markakis, 1 for 3, 333 with a double. I lost that one. So 2.5 out of 8, not great. But that's why I made 0 all-star teams. Okay? So, it's kind of we have this every year, right? We talk about the Hall of Fame. We talk about who belongs in, who doesn't. We're constantly talking about the role of steroids and the biogenesis and the Balco case and the Mitchell report. Like, what are those groups of guys, like, what's going to happen with them and do they belong in the Hall of Fame? And I'm going to try to use as much honesty here as possible because I think we dance around a lot of things. Like, I constantly am seeing, like, and yes, we'll take this grain of salt, this is social media, but like the case being me, like, does Barry Bonds deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? And then it's all his stats, right? It has nothing to do with his stats. He has the greatest career of all time if we just go by, like, he is the greatest player of all time statistically. Like, that's not the debate. That's not the debate. And we got to stop doing that because obviously if that were the only thing that mattered, he's in. But that's not the only thing that matters. If anything, that's mattering less than the other things. So there's a couple interesting stories going on here, and I want to talk about those 2 big questions that I mentioned at the top. One, is our appetite for like having a scandal or controversy attached to a player softening a little bit in terms of putting them in the Hall of Fame? Because there's a lot of purists that believe that it should be only stats based, and we should go only based on stats. But at the end of the day, if human beings if we're not using an algorithm, which we better not, if we're trying to compare stats, those standards are going to constantly change as well. So that's not a perfect science either. It's not like bias is always going to show up because we all value stats differently. And we misremember how guys' stats kind of played in their era anyways, because the farther away you get, the harder it is to remember. That's just part of it. So like there's going to be bias and sentiment as long as humans are involved, no matter what happens. So we kind of stop hoping that there's this purely statistical set of standards that we can use to put people in the Hall of Fame, because it's never going to happen, ever. It's never going to happen. It's a noble goal, maybe sometimes, but it's not going to happen. So we need to make sure that we're taking that into account. But one of these two gentlemen has a pretty big scandal attached to his name, and it was recent. It was only, actually, it's kind of crazy. It was 8 years ago, but the 2017 Astros cheating scandal, Carlos Beltran is very involved. Some say extremely involved, to being one of the possible. I don't think there were ringleaders per se, but somebody who perpetuated it and pushed for it a little bit harder than others. That has been said by some. That has not been said by others. You know, he was part of it though, and it has been widely reported that he was a major factor. He was punished accordingly. You know, he had. Was only the manager for the Mets for 2 weeks before this came out, and then he had to. I can't remember. He was fired or resigned or mutually parted ways, and he kind of went away from baseball for a couple of years, let it die down. But now he's in the Hall of Fame, and only a few years later, after a major scandal is attached to his name in which he was a major part of it, he is being given the benefit of the doubt. Now, why is that? Let's contrast that with two other guys, one of which just fell off the ballot completely. That's Manny Ramirez and Alex Rodriguez. Arguably, you could make a case for both of those guys statistically being more productive than Carlos Beltran. I will say A-Rod definitely. Manny's maybe the one because of defensive stuff. But like A-Rod, if we went statistically, should 100% be in. Okay, so why is it that this is being maybe not forgiven, but maybe softened a little bit more than those other two guys? I think there's some things that are going on here, and that there's bias because the steroid era has a certain connotation that the cheating scandal doesn't. There's this element of Beltran wasn't the only person, so it's not like he was just doing a thing and cheating himself, right? It wasn't isolated to him. Like there's this selfishness attached to like doing steroids because you're trying to get advantage not only over other teams, but like your people who are competing you for spots and stuff, like on your own team, technically. Like so, like that's why there's a little bit more, I think, vitriol for that. Also, it was so explosive at the time. There were so many people involved. It was this massive thing that's what's stuck in writers' heads. And the farther we get away from it, the harder it is going to be to change that opinion. That opinion is ingrained. If you feel really strongly about that, you're probably not going to get any new information that helps you move past it. So the people who constantly vote for Manny and A-Rod are going to always vote for Manny and A-Rod, but there might not be enough guys that switch. Flopping at this point, the longer we go, is going to be even less or more and more rare. And so that's why it's unlikely that they have a surge without some sort of image rehabilitation. And so recency bias is a big part of it, I think. The fact that it was a solo job versus one of many people, but I'll be honest. There's a likability and accountability. There is a responsibility part of this, right? When people take responsibility, they take accountability, and they're generally liked by especially media members who are voting on this. They're going to get more benefit of the doubt. Okay, so what I think is, in my opinion, though A-Rod has kind of apologized in the past for the biogenesis, and there was also rumblings from the first round away too, so like there's kind of two connections, even though he wasn't on the first report. The second one was he also had a suspension in there as well, so he's been suspended, and then there's rumblings of another one. And some of the comments from some of the stuff that came out about biogenesis of like what he was trying to do, it just did not look good. And his apologies have just kind of been generally a little bit tepid and a little bit performative feeling. It just feels that way. Now it might be something that he was heartfelt and honest. It just doesn't come through very well, and that just doesn't rub people the right way that much. It's a reputational thing. And I think that because Manny was the person who was actually caught that broke this thing open, and that because A-Rod's not getting in for all the reasons I just said, like that's the thing that's keeping him back. Manny, they can't vote for Manny in either. So like no one's gonna vote for only Manny and not A-Rod and vice versa. Like, that's like a hypocrite. Like, do you care about the steroid thing or not? Like, you can't just say, oh, I like him and I don't like him, because that makes you look like a biased person. Even though everyone is biased, you don't want to outwardly look that way. So, like, they are linked together now and they can't go in. So Manny's being hurt mostly because people don't want to vote in A-Rod. And that's why Manny ended up not getting, in my opinion. That's what I think would have happened. But like, then take like Clemens and Bonds, for example, not even on the ballots, right? Because one, now I'm not actually certain, I'm not gonna act like this is a rule of law, because this is a little bit of speculation and I might be guessing here a little bit, but both of those guys were testified, and one said, yeah, it was, but I didn't know. And there was this whole thing going on that he didn't know about. Even after a bunch of other guys who got it from the same source said that they were very aware and they admitted it and took accountability, to this day, Barry still maintains that innocence. And then even farther down, Roger Clemens wholesale says no. Just, no, I didn't, and just denies it to this day. That's just a hard pill for people to swallow. Like, that doesn't feel like any accountability. That almost sometimes it can feel like your intelligence is being, you're trying to be convinced of something that your eyes tell you. And that doesn't feel good, and people just can't really be like, well, you know, okay, and then just take it and go. Like, that's what's happening there as well, right? It's not like both of those guys had sparkling reputations with media members either. You know, there's been stories, you can look them up, Google it, of fracas and some back and forth and some not so happy exchanges between media members and them. So like, if they generally, it's not a great reputation with media members who are all voters, and then it doesn't feel like accountability has really been taken, that's what happens. So we're running into a situation where that matters. And whether or not you think it should or not, it definitely should, because guess what, guys? It's voted on by people. So there needs to be a holistic look at humanity in this. Like, who you are as a human matters, and it should matter in everything you do. We shouldn't just only give awards based on, like, the awards were the MVPs and the records and all that kind of stuff. They got those awards. You can have those awards. Those are agnostic. Human beings don't bet on those or have bias on those. You just get the numbers, and so you get the award. You get those. Those ones you get, where no one's taking those away. Those all stay with you, you get to keep them forever. But when it comes down to humans, voting on humans, to have an honor and be included into a group of people, the human part of you matters. It does. And if that's something, that there's things there that the people voting aren't super appreciative of, that's going to affect your ability to get voted in. Okay? Second thing I want to talk about, second question, that I find extremely interesting about this new crop of guys and the direction that the voting is going in, is we are seeing an adjustment of statistical standards used to bring in this new crop of players. So like Joe Mauer is a great example, right? He had 14 years in the major leagues and he was a catcher. He needed those two things in order to get in. If he was a first baseman the whole time, he probably wouldn't have. That, and he's just absolutely beloved. So like, that helps, that gives him some points. But it's a shorter career comparatively to, you know, the average of like 17 to 20 years that most Hall of Famers have. You know, the farther back you go, the longer those careers get. So like, his body of work is only comparable in that it's almost like prorated to 14 years, and he was a catcher, and he won an MVP, and he's one of the greatest players in the history of an organization. All of those things I think got him in, but we're seeing the shorter career now get into the Hall of Fame, and there's going to be more and more shorter careers that are being considered because careers are just shorter. But there's going to be an adjustment period, a window of 10 to 15 to 20 years probably before that fully shifts down. And what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a group of players, just like we saw, 11 of the 12 brand new options on the ballot are off already. Like, they're going to get left behind because they're still being compared to the old standards. When in 10 years, they might go from Hall of Very Good to Hall of Fame because they're being compared to the era they're supposed to be compared to. So only the greatest of the greats from those guys' eras are going to get in. and there's going to have to be a realignment. So there is going to be this lost generation, this 5 to 7 years of guys probably, that probably were borderline or could have snuck in, that are just going to be off on the first ballot. And it's because of the way that the standards are going to change. So let me go over those names once again, okay? It's really, really, really interesting. It's Brian Braun, Edwin Encarnacion, Sin-Chu Chu, Matt Kemp, Hunter Pence, Rick Porcello, Alex Gordon, Nick Markakis, Gio Gonzalez, Howie Kendrick, and Daniel Murphy. All not going to get a second chance. Now, you can probably say, yeah, but they're all pretty fringe. Yeah, and the idea is that, like, maybe Braun gets an opportunity if it changes a little bit. Like, maybe he stays on, and then we get a softening on his performance-enhancing controversy, and that might have been the thing that pushed him below 5. It's absolutely possible. It's probably likely. He probably missed on 3 votes because of that, and now he's not going to go forward. Again, we have another guy at the top of that list who has controversy attached to him. That shakes it up a little bit. We only have one guy who's going to stay on the list, and that is Cole Hamels. Now, Cole Hamels is 20%. He might be able to have enough longevity to get to that change, right? Felix Hernandez, same thing, right? These guys might sneak in down the road. It's going to take them a few years, but the standards are going to change slightly. The bodies of work are going to be considered smaller and smaller and smaller year after year. Can they hold out long enough to be the top of that class that's left? We'll have to wait and see. But it is fascinating. I think it is a massive, massive drain. I think it's a thing. I think it's a thing that's going to happen. We're going to have a little lost era of guys who maybe could have gotten in, that had they just gone on the ballot 5 or 10 years later, then they would have made it. And so it's going to be interesting to see if this conversation continues again in 2030, and we're like, okay, who are those guys? Who are the guys that are getting left behind, a little bit by all of this? All right. We're going to move on to the breaking news, all the signings and tradings and stuff. But first, a word from the boys.
Nobody likes a bloated cell phone bill. It can consume you. It can take over. It can be very annoying. So I know that 2025 ended Kratz, and that's when you have your end of year sales. But there actually is still one sale that is running until the end of the month.
Mint Mobile. They still have their 50% off their unlimited premium wireless offer that you got to go and get and take advantage of, because it's not necessarily going to be around all the time.
And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Quit overspending on wireless with 50% off unlimited premium wireless. Plans start at $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com.
Quit overspending on wireless with 50% off unlimited premium wireless plans. Start at $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory. That is mintmobile.com/territory. All right, quick housekeeping before we move into the news. Join the Substack. It is the best way to support us over here at Mayday. You can get a bunch of cool bonus content that is behind a paywall for only $5 a month. If you want to be a founder, thank you so much. We will add your name to the wall of thank yous at the end of the show, at the end of the YouTube videos. So thank you everyone who already has subscribed over there and at the paid tier, or you can just subscribe for free. Put your email in, you get an email, you get a newsletter every week that has little goodies in it, cool stories that we like, and then it keeps you up to date on everything we're making. So appreciate you. Thank you for any of the support you can give. And also, if you ever miss this show or the Friday show and you want to go catch up on the subjects we're talking about in little bite-sized pizzas, those videos are up on More Mayday. It's kind of migrating over there. So if you are not subscribed to More Mayday, you should, because you'll get way more content. Thank you so much. All right, let's get into the news. Lots of news today, and some of it be breaking news. First up, Cody Bellinger is a New York Yankee once again. The New York Yankees and outfielder Cody Bellinger are in agreement on a 5-year, $162.5 million contract per multiple reports. The deal includes opt-outs after the second and third seasons. Interesting. That is new. A $20 million signing bonus to avoid some of the taxes from that New York City. Been there, done that, and it had a full no-trade clause. Ooh, according to ESPN's Jorge Castillo. That is a very interesting deal, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. Primarily hitting behind Aaron Judge, Bellinger had a strong 2025. He hit 272, 29 home runs, 98 RBIs, and 813 OPS in 152 games. Very, very good. Not quite his MVP season, but up there. It's the type of production that team needs to retain. Now, do we think he's going to do exactly that? No, but he, over the last couple of years, especially coming back with the Cubs, he's been a rock-solid player. So I would expect, even if there is some little bit of regression from age, he is going to be very productive, especially behind Judge. As of late Tuesday, it appeared the Yankees and the Mets were the main suitors. Surprise, but then the Mets acquired an outfielder from the White Sox that we'll talk about in just one moment. But Bellinger was initially seeking a 7-year deal, and after a lengthy stalemate, I bet you those opt-outs early in the contract were the ones that got it going. It is very, very interesting that he has a 5-year deal. That's a lot of security, but he can just cancel that thing after year 2, which is cool. This could be not cool. That was the wrong word. Which is interesting because this could potentially be a 2-year deal where he can then, if he can get himself out of a situation that he doesn't want to be in anymore. I don't know if you guys are noticing this, but opt-outs are becoming I think the big ticket that is moving around that is getting these things done. Opt-outs are options to move on, and though they're almost always player options, if you get a mutual option, like building in options is a great mechanic, I think, for people getting what they want or giving themselves the option to change their mind at some point. So you don't go halfway through the year like, I don't want to be here for 4.5 more years. You can actually say, okay, let's keep trucking here, and then in a year and a half we can reassess. I think that is just good across the board for everybody, so no one feels so locked in that they need that it gets resentment happens, and I hate that. So good for you, Cody, and good for you, Yankees fans. You got your guy. We know how bad you wanted it. You got your guy. Okay. There is another piece of news that I would be remiss if I didn't cover, and you know me, I got to get into this stuff. But there was an article released last night by our boy Evan Drellick over at The Athletic. MLB owners enraged by Kyle Tucker deal will push for salary cap no matter what. There was actually a quote from a person that has been briefed on the situation, and this is what the quote from the article said. Credit to Evan for writing the article. Major League Baseball owners are, quote unquote, raging in the wake of Kyle Tucker's free agency agreement with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it's now in quotations, this is a direct quote, a 100% certainty that the owners will push for a salary cap. One person briefed on ownership conversations who was not authorized to speak publicly told The Athletic. So he spoke publicly. What that means is it was leaked. So these guys are going to go for no cap no matter what it takes, the source said. So this could mean a lot. I've gotten asked the question so many times, how likely does this lockout happen? But or how likely is it the lockout happens because of this deal? And I was always hesitant to kind of go one way or the other. It's a complicated situation. I didn't want to get ahead of my skis. But this is an interesting situation now. If we take this at face value, it could be posturing. It could have been thrown out there just to get fans a little bit more up in arms, because at the end of the day, and we say this over and over again, I'm going to keep saying it, this is a battle of sentiment. The fans feel a certain way. The teams are going to hammer the thing that makes you the most mad, and players are going to try to make you mad at the owners. Like, that is how this works, because you guys matter, because this is for you, because it's entertainment and you are the ones being entertained. Like, if you aren't happy with the product, none of it matters. Like, fighting over money doesn't matter because the money will go away. So, like, we got to listen to you. Listening to the fans is very important. And there's been a couple problems with the way the game is put together, or at least teams are put together, that the fans are not happy with. So, what I want to do is give you a little bit of context on how the economics have actually changed because I've done a little bit more research into it. But first, there's a real quick correction I want to make. Last week I said that the CBT money, the basically money over the tax over the luxury tax, competitive balance tax money goes to like the teams for salary for paying their payroll. That isn't directly what happens, though some of the teams do receive the money. It's actually for player benefits. We're talking pensions, all that kind of stuff, and also operations of the league and team operations. So like it's not earmarked specifically for that. That's what I said, that like, you know, the teams get that on top of revenue sharing. That's not entirely true, so I just want to make that clarification. Revenue sharing does have to be used for payroll, and there is a mechanic put into the CBA that says you have to use your revenue sharing to improve your team, not go to payroll, improve your team. So instead of giving it to, I don't know, the talent on the field, it's more like we bought a bunch of slow-mo cameras and we're like upgrading stadiums and stuff and trying to avoid it that way because you get tax write-offs and stuff that way. So there was actually, and then there's supposed to be a mechanic that you have to do it so you can file a grievance. There's been one grievance filed. It was against the 4 teams that you would assume it's against. I believe the Athletics, the Pirates, the Marlins, and the Rockies. And those 4 teams have had a grievance out for 8 years since 2018, and nothing's happened. So that's how well that thing's enforced. So just so you guys know that, I don't know if I've ever told you that. Okay, now we've got that covered. One thing you need to know: the collective bargaining tax, the competitive balance tax, the luxury tax, exists for a very specific reason. It was supposed to be a soft cap, but in reality, there are 2 groups of owners, and there always have been. There's the wealthy ones that just spend, and there's the ones that don't, and are in smaller markets. They don't spend for myriad reasons, right? So what the tax is supposed to do is create a cap where the richest teams have to think about spending, so it does slow them down like slightly more than there would be if there was nothing. But what it does for the smaller markets is, and it's a built-in excuse to not have to spend that much money. So that's why they both were like, okay, this is a compromise. We can cap you guys, so to slow you down a little bit, but also it gives us a reason to keep doing what we're doing. So everyone's happy. Now the economics of the game have changed, and now those teams who are just raking in the RSN, the regional TV deals, those are going away. And they are only seeing one way to make money, and that is through franchise values. And we need franchise values to go up, and the best way to do that is through a salary cap, and that is why we are getting this comment. It is less about the Dodgers hemorrhaging money to players. It's less about that. It's more about this is a great opportunity to push really hard for the salary cap because there's never a better time for fans to get behind us for it. Which, if you are a fan, you probably agree. So, let's talk hypotheticals. Let's say 20 teams, and I have a proposal for what I think a proposal would be from the players to the teams that would solve the team's problem, the players' problems, and the fans get benefits as well. And I want to explain it to you. No one does this, and I want to do it really quickly before we move on to more of the news, okay? It seems to me, with this coming from the smaller markets, that kind of agreement between the big teams and the small teams is fractured a little bit, and they're not on the same page. They might be, they probably aren't, because the Dodgers probably don't want a cap because they have an advantage right now, right? So, if there's a fracture, that means there's leverage, all right? So let's assume that every small market team is telling the truth and they are losing money and some of them are in trouble of going bankrupt. Let's just assume that's true, okay? It might be, it probably is, nothing's ever fully false, so it's probably true. And the only way that their business can be viable is if they can increase their franchise value by predicting their costs every single year. Let's assume that is true. And both sides see no way forward unless there is a cap put in place. There has to be one. That's the assumption. This is a hypothetical situation. It has to happen. It has to. I'm not saying there should be. I'm saying in this hypothetical situation, everyone involved has decided that it has to, and so they're going to play ball. Here's what I think the Players Association should push for or ask for. They should ask for shortening free agency to 4 years. when you come up, you get 4 years of control or age 27 season, and you become a free agent no matter what. This gives the opportunity to have multiple free agency years or opportunities at free agency. There's only 2 ARB years either way. Or sorry, yes, 2 of the years are ARB. So there's still pre-ARB, it's 2 years, or if there's 5 years, it's 3-2. So there is ARB. Clear revenue split that's more than 50% no matter what. So if the cap were associated with revenue share, last year it would have been 200 million to 220 million probably, somewhere in that. That would have been the cap, okay? So if there's a revenue split, that's what it needs to be. It needs to be somewhere around there. That's what cap would be if it were attached to revenue, which I don't think they should do. The floor needs to be 90% of the cap. Previously, it was offered like a 180 top end, which is a joke. That is less than 50% of revenues, so it needs to be higher than that. Then they offered like a 110 floor. They have mentioned they like how the other sports work. The other sports are 90%, you get 90%. That's how it works. So instead of, this 180, 110, it's gonna be 200 and 190 playa, or sorry, 180. It's gotta be that. You gotta offer that. That's 3. 4, as the cap goes up, so does the pre-ARB pool, that pool that where you pay the bet, like rookie of the year can make more money. Money before arbitration to the young guys, that escalates with the cap, goes along with it. 5, if you re-sign a player that it was already on your team, that spent all the years in your team and then becomes a free agent and you re-sign them, you get a bonus similar to the way the qualifying offer works. You get a new draft pick or some other interesting mechanic that gives you a little bit of an advantage, maybe more money to work with, maybe a little bit of a higher revenue split, whatever it is that year. But that benefits the fans. I want to see the fans get that, where you get to keep your stars and it's incentivized to do so. There could be a minimum star contract, kind of like the franchise tag, where there's a minimum amount of years you give to a certain number of players on your team so that there's protection there. Number 7, certain restrictions on deferrals to dodge caps. You can't use deferred money to dodge the cap. It has to count somewhere or the other, and there has to be penalties for doing so. Deferments are a big issue. So that needs to be taken care of. And then the last one is the cap isn't a function of revenue, it's a function of franchise values. So if the franchise value goes up, so does the cap, because as an asset appreciates, I think everyone involved in making that asset appreciate, the players and everyone else involved, should also see some of that benefit as well. That is probably going to be the sticking point. If that needs to happen, players need to go, okay, flip the switch and say, here's what we want. What do you got? At some point, it needs to stop being this like, oh, we've never had a cap. Like a proposal's gonna go out and it's gonna change. But that is a big thing that needs to change in my opinion. And I think we'll start to see real movement that way. Now, are they gonna get all that stuff? Of course not. You negotiate from here. But like if you're gonna do it, those are the types of things that need to happen. And I think they can really improve the product overall and make things more equitable, not only for the players top to bottom, but also for fans and also for all the teams. And if there's a big group that truly wants competitive balance and they truly want parity, how can you say no to some of this stuff? But don't worry, they will say no. There's probably some non-starters in there, but you're not going to know what they are unless they are proposed and then denied. So I'm saying that I think this could be a good thing because the hand might have been shown a little bit from this. Again, fully hypothetical. Now, I want you guys to know one thing. If a cap goes into place, it's not like the next year it's just in place and then all the contracts are going to be knocked down. Contracts are guaranteed right now. Going backwards on contracts guaranteed is not going to happen. Like giving up a guaranteed status, that security, once you've had it for the entire time that this has existed, that's not a precedent that you can set. You just can't do it. I think everyone can agree with that. Once you have something that's guaranteed to a level, like maybe that changes the numbers, but they like saying, hey, we're taking your money back even though you signed your deal 5 years ago. That can't happen. So what's going to need to be done is it's going to take a while. It's going to take 5, maybe even 10 years to wind down some of these contracts, let them expire, let them end. And then the new ones, like we just don't add any more to the pile. But you're not going to see the benefits of the parity and the signings and stuff immediately. You're going to see that have to change and they're going to have to readjust, and that's going to have to go slowly over time. So if you're willing to wait, that is something that's going to happen. So there might be a different way. One, let's look at revenue sharing. If the teams with less money need more money. Let's increase revenue sharing, but you have to spend the money on players. That's what needs to change. Not just make your team better. The wording needs to change that it's spent on your payroll. On your payroll. A large portion of it has to be on your payroll. That needs to change. That would fix a lot. That would automatically bring up the bottom. It would bring it up immediately. Immediately, because there would be an allotment of money they had to spend on players. That's a de facto floor, or a function of one, right? And then you add teeth to the luxury tax, where there actually is penalties when you get up there. Like, you lose picks and you lose the ability to defer money at all. You lose mechanics that actually allow you to make the team better. So you actually have to think about going over those thresholds. So those teams come back down. So now we have this happening. That might be easier. That might not take 10 years to do. Just throwing it out there. I want to know what you guys think. That might be, we don't have to break the whole thing and then try to fix it again when the game's fun to watch. Maybe we just address those two major factors, make them a little bit more strict and a little bit more clearly enforceable, and that might help us move us in that direction. Maybe that's a place we start first. But again, we have a year, but I'm just saying. So don't freak out about this 100% it's gonna happen thing. There's a chance that it could actually potentially get the ball moving and get real change made sooner rather than later, so we don't miss baseball. Because at the end of the day, fans, they want to see their stars stay where they are, so they can root for guys for their entire careers. They want there to be baseball, and maybe we can even let's hold some ticket prices steady for a bit. That's never going to happen because business people are business people, but I hope so. I hope that helps the fans get what they want. And at the end of the day, if we go with my other proposal, the players get tons of security, they get protected by a lot of different things, and the owners get a cap, even if it's associated with their franchise values. I mean, everyone wins. Who can deny that? All right, moving on with more news. Finally, Louis Roberts gone. He got traded to the New York Mets for Louis Angel Acuna and right-hander Truman Pauly. So I guess that's what it took to let him go. I've been the biggest kind of head-scratching guy for the last couple of years over the trade deadline. Like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. Why is this guy still here? But he is officially the center fielder for the Mets. Huge defensive player. He's had a great 2023 year. He is high potential, but he has been riddled with injuries. So we'll see how it works. But if healthy, he fits perfectly in the middle of that outfield and possibly get a little bit of fire lit in that engine to be with a team full of stars. This could be a good fit. I'm excited to see how it plays out. With the injury to Ha-Seong Kim, who's going to be out for at least 5 months, the Braves signed Jorge Mateo to help out at shortstop. It's been tough at shortstop for the Braves since Dansby Swanson signed with the Cubs. Mateo hit 177 with one home run and 3 RBIs and 83 appearances over 42 games last year with the Orioles. The guy can run, so he should help be a stopgap. They'll probably have a revolving door there and see how much value they can get. But Kim injured her middle finger, slipped on a sheet of ice when his native Korea last week. Dang, that stinks. So I hope all the best for him. He gets healthy, but you do what you got to do. Small signing there. Ryan Presley has chosen to call it quits after 13 years. My buddy, my friend, Press. Congratulations on your career, buddy. 117 saves in his 13-year career and helped the Astros win a 2022 World Series. He had 6 saves and only allowed 1 earned run over 11 innings during that run. And he compiled 2 saves, gave up just 1 unearned run over 5 2/3 to help the Astros win the World Series over the Philadelphia Phillies in 6 games. So he has arguably been one of the best postseason closers in a long time. He's going to go be a coach. He's going to assist in the player development with the Twins, primarily working with pitchers in both minor league and major league level. So congratulations, Press. Wish you all the best. I should probably text you. Congratulations. It's great over here. It's really great. Also, now that Cody Bellinger signed with the Yankees, that opens the door for Jason Dominguez to possibly be a trade chip. They are looking at possibly going for some starting pitching, as everyone always needs. On that list is Freddie Peralta, Mackenzie Gore, and possibly Joe Ryan. Brandon Cuddy wrote that Dominguez could be Yankees' best trade chip of the Athletic. Could be the Yankees' best trade chip if moved. So there's flexibility there. He hasn't quite panned out, though he has been quality player at times with throwing flashes. It is a value that I think another team could get. So Justin Verlander is also being talked to by a bunch of different clubs. He's continuing to go. He's entering his age 42. Oh, sorry, he's entering his 43 season. He pitched really well down the stretch last year, and he's going into his 21st season. And this guy is not going to be left behind by the Hall of Fame voting. He is definitely getting in. If Verlander does sign with the Orioles, he will continue the trend of only pitching for teams that have orange as one of their colors. Excuse me? Tigers, Astros, Mets, and Giants all have orange in them. That's crazy. Nice find, DK. The Dodgers are interested in Freddie Peralta, according to the Athletics' Katie Wu. Let's hope not. Let's move on. The Athletics are reportedly wanted Nolan Arenado. Last week, the Diamondbacks got him, as we remember, but the Athletics were also interested and even had a deal in place. While they're willing to take on more money than Diamondbacks, Arenado indicated he would not necessarily approve going to Sacramento. Smart. Probably a good call there, Nolan. Just saying. I respect his decision. But that is the news. Nolan Arenado doesn't want to go to the A's. Probably not the best time to do it. All right. Let's get into our final story of the day. Now, I got to be very clear here. I'll just show you. I got to be very clear. I did some filming this last week in San Francisco, the last couple days, and we were kind of like, what is our third story going to be? And an idea occurred to me, so we're going to do something fun for this last little part of the show. A style of video or a style of reporting that I've done in the past, and I call it the 14 perks of being a closer that you likely never thought of. Now, as many of you know, I was the closer for the Oakland Athletics in my final year in 2023. I had 21 saves, but I was always kind of a back-end bullpen guy. I had 10 saves in my career going into that year and ended with 31. So I have a little bit of experience. By no means am I a career closer, but I did get to sit there or going in the 7th or 8th quite a bit, and I got to see what closers got to do and the type of life they got to live. And so I got to thinking, hey, what are the best parts of being a closer? And then I realized, wow, I've never talked about a lot of this. So we're gonna go through these one by one, the 14 best parts of being a closer in the major leagues. And gosh, it's quite the gig. Number one, you're the only reliever that anyone cares about. So when it comes down to it, like when there's signings or when you're going into a season, or if you're coming out of it, like the only reliever that anyone likes or anyone's gets a jersey for is the closer. They're the guy that if you do a good job, they love you. If you don't do a great job, they hate you. Yes, it's very volatile, but guess what? If you're the setup guy, you're a 6th inning, 7th inning guy, if you do a good job, they're like, eh. And if you don't do a good job, they hate you. So it's like, at least if you do a good job, you get the best possible relationship with the fan base. So if you're the closer, you are the bullpen. Everyone else is interchangeable, but you might be someone they need to hold on to. And that is a nice feeling because it's tough to get that as a reliever. Perk number 2, you get the best seat in the bullpen. The closer always gets to choose where they sit first. For me, in Oakland, I wanted the cushiest chair. Now, I got messed with a lot, but I wanted the chair where I could sit in a certain place, and then if I needed to go get something or move around or do something, I was closest to the door to get out. And I always did it that way, and no one was going to push back against me. When you were the closer, wherever you put your glove, everyone kind of fills in. It's just kind of an unwritten rule. There's a lot of these in the bullpen. We're really bored out there. If only we had mics, we could make quite a few podcasts during baseball games, but you get the best seat in the pen, and that's pretty nice. Perk number 3, you make the most money. Who doesn't like to be the person sitting at a table that is making the most money? Yes, closers are paid far and away the most of any reliever, and it's not really close. And the only time a non-reliever gets paid somewhere close to closer money is because they might need to close a little bit. So, i.e. Jeff Hoffman type of deal, right? The excited to be closer, but like, we'd be okay with both. But when it comes to like Edwin Diaz or Tanner Scott, these guys are being paid to close games and only close games. And when you only close games, you go from getting like $8 million a year to 20, and that is that's the deal. If you can't be a starter, you might want to try to be a closer. That's the next best thing. All right. Perk number 4. Most of the time, when the phone rings, you know it's not for you, and that is maybe the best part. Knowing when the phone rings and it's you, and being very confident in that. There is a level of anxiety that is palpable in a bullpen, especially as each guy's role kind of comes up. If you are a guy that is the middle of the game, you know, we call them up 5, down 5 guys, like this 10-run window, which is like almost every game. So they're on all the time. Every phone ring could be for you. There's this, you're constantly going through. It's like, yeah, it's like cruel and unusual punishment a little bit. Now, they're just calling to tell you to go in, but like that ring of that phone, like it's something that sometimes when I hear it, I'm like I check, I look over like to look at the coach. And there's no complaints here. It's just a funny quirk, but it is nice to know that there's one specific situation most of the time that is only for you. And usually you're already moving around anyway. So the phone doesn't really matter anymore, which is so nice. Perk number 5. You rarely have another pitcher come in after you and cash your runs, and that's only if you really struggle. So if you're the last guy pitching, you don't have to worry about inherited runners as much as others. If you're the 6th inning guy, you go do your job, you give up a double, and then you get pulled because it's a platoon split. Someone gives up a single and scores your run. That's happening constantly if another reliever is always going to come behind you. But as a closer, you don't have that as much. So technically, you tend to have your stats look a little bit better because no one cashes your run. Now, there's a couple caveats for that. For example, you come in the top of the 9th inning, the game's tied or something, then you get hit around a little bit, you're throwing lots of pitches, you give up a couple runs, and then they bring in a young guy behind you and he gives up a bunch of your runs. That can get out of hand, but it doesn't happen as often. And it's in a very specific situation. And usually, the second best pitcher available comes in behind you in that situation because you're close enough to where the team can come back, right? So you're always going to have the next best quality arms pitching around you, and that means less of your inherited runners overall are cashed, and that's a thing that happens a lot, and it's something that relievers know about, and it stinks. Number 6, you gotta show up to the bullpen after the game starts. I went out to the bullpen in the 4th inning. I got a trainer all to myself at the beginning of the game to get myself ready. I got to take a nap. I got to do my meditation. I got to go get my arm stretched. I got to take the time to loosen my body up, go out there knowing that I'm not going to pitch. I'm going to have a few innings before I have to go into the game. Again, that factors into there's a certain level of relaxation to a point. You don't have to be on for all 9 innings. You can be on starting in the 7th. And it's nice. It's pretty nice. Perk number 7. You're the only reliever that gets to refuse to pitch. Now, don't jump to any conclusions. This is a little bit provocative, I know. Doesn't mean you get to refuse to pitch every time. This is a very specific situation, but this specific situation is not afforded to anyone else in the bullpen. If you haven't pitched in a while, say you're a closer and you've gotten 4 or 5, 6 days off, and you still aren't in a safe situation, either you're getting blown out or you're blowing them out, so there just hasn't been a close game in a while, they're like, if you have a good enough report, and this isn't everybody, not every closer, like young guys still have to go in, but like Edwin Diaz, for example, or Sergio Romo is a prime example. He did this when I played with him. They called down and be like, hey, Sergio, do you want to get working today? And you could be like, no, I'm good. And they're like, all right. And then someone else pitches. Now, is it a little bit of a dick move? Yes. But is it also really nice if you're not feeling great or you slept terrible the night before and you were hoping there wasn't really a safe situation? Yeah, it is nice to refuse. I'll be honest, I did it once. And honestly, it felt a little dirty at the beginning. But then I was glad I did it. So yes, that happens from time to time where it's not a safe situation and the closer can say, no, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at. No need to push it. Perk number 8, you can have a strict routine because you know when you pitch. Your routine can be really dialed in. You can time it really well because, again, you know your role, and it's the most rigid role in the bullpen. Okay, so being able to know, like, I know who I'm gonna face. I can project. I can look forward and see where in the lineup I'm gonna face. You can be very accurate in these things, more accurate than any other reliever, so you can feel more prepared. So if you're a guy who needs a lot of routine, being a closer is an ideal situation for you, and you don't have to worry about a call. You can just assume that you're going to have the opportunity at a certain situation, and that's a nice thing to have. Certainty of role and routine is always ideal for baseball players, and for relievers, it's one of the hardest parts about doing it. So having a role where you can count on some of that stuff makes a big difference, and that's why you maybe see these guys even perform better than the other guys, because certainty helps. It's kind of a snowball running downhill. It's kind of like you get more free stuff when you have money, like type of thing. So that's pretty nice, though. I liked it. Number 9, you rarely have to throw more than 1 inning. Yep. You're usually out there and you're going 1, 2, 3. That's usually what you're doing. Now, there's going to be times where you're playing against your rival, or it's a big game. You got to hold. You got to, like, we had this with Edwin Diaz with the Braves in 2021 or in 2022 a lot, where in the 8th inning a spot came up where we needed some strikeouts with, like, me or the starter went out there or whatever, and he would come in and get an out and then go sit down and go back out. Right? Josh Hader did this a lot early in his career. It is something that happens from time to time, but it's usually based on necessity. But if you're signed as a closer, you're going to be vast majority of the time throwing 3 innings. You're coming in a clean inning most of the time, and you can count on that generally being the rule of thumb. You're not going to get surprised very often. And up downs, I call them up downs, where you pitch, you sit down, you cool down, you get warm again. That, I think, is the highest wear and tear on your body, more so than total pitches in general. So once you're warm, the stress in your body is less than if you have to get warm again for the second time. Number 10, you will likely never lead the team in appearances. So great. It's so great. Do me a favor, go look up Eddie Guardado's career when he was a closer versus when he wasn't. You see the appearances, and the statistics reflect that. Closers are usually throwing anywhere from 63 to 70 times a year, which is the sweet spot for reliever. If you're like a fireman guy who comes in any situation, or you're like the setup guy who could throw the 7th or 8th, or you can come in right after the starter. If you're the guy who can throw in every situation, you're going to throw more. And so as the closer, you usually get the tightest workload, though there's times where you don't throw enough because you're not in enough save situations, which can be frustrating because you want to get a body of work, but you don't have to worry about having to throw 80 times in a year, usually. Sometimes you can. Brad Lidge did it once because they were in save situations constantly, but usually you are not thrown out there like that. Number 11, you are the captain of the bullpen, and so what you say goes. You just kind of got to be like the guys, like, nah, or let's do this, let's not do this. What is our running today? You ask the closer. What is our, are we going out to dinner or we're not going out to dinner as a group? You ask the closer. Like you're kind of everyone's big brother. And that's mostly great. Sometimes it's not so great because you have responsibility, but you're the captain of the bullpen. And who doesn't want to be the captain? Number 12, you might even get to be an all-star. Now, you might already know this, but relievers don't get to go to the All-Star game unless they're closers. Actually, in the last 5 years, there have been 50 relievers in the All-Star game. 42 of those are closers. Only 8 of them are not. And of those 8, 7 of them had 5 or more saves. So they were either sharing the closer role or they were the closer. Like, the setup guy never just goes as the setup guy. You have a ton of holds you get to go. There might be one guy, maybe. But if you're the closer, you could get an all-star team. And that is why I'm a 0-time all-star. That's all I'm saying. That's the only reason. It has nothing to do with the fact that I statistically wasn't good enough. All right, we're coming down to the last 2. Perk number 13. You can be absolutely insane and it's absolutely fine. John Rocker, Grant Balfour, Liam Hendricks. Need I say more? Relievers are psychos, but super psychos are closers. So you can go be nuts, and everyone's like, that's just what you do when you do this job. Look at that guy. I love him. He's a closer. So you want to be crazy? You want to be on a baseball field? Be a closer. And finally, you get a sick entrance song / production. Trumpets, Duran and his mashup. Enter Sandman, Hell's Bells. Oh, God, I love it. It's like you're in the WWE. The best part about closing is that you get a song no matter what, and sometimes they'll turn the lights off for you, and that is awesome. Johnny Cash, Taylor Rogers came out to The Chain. I came out to Welcome Home. It's just, maybe scream in your glove. You don't need a boost in adrenaline if you get a sick entrance song, and I think that is the best part about being a closer. And that is my 14 perks of being a closer that you probably never thought about, but you should because it's awesome. That concludes our show for the day, guys. Let's do this. I want to thank everyone for being here, for hanging out. It's always fun to do this show. I also want to thank producer David Korn, Henry Neiman, editors David Foley, Aaron Demet, and Emily Sharbaugh. And I want to thank Emily Jude for helping me set everything up for this. Thank you so much. And as always, don't forget to slow down, drink a little bit of water, enjoy some baseball, maybe some baseball content here on Mayday. I will see you on Friday over on Trevor May Baseball for that show. Stay tuned. We have some moving pieces. There's some updates happening to the production. So if that needs to move, I will let you know. But I want to say thank you guys for being here on Foul Territory Network. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And whatever you are doing for the rest of the day, be safe and have a good time. So I will see you very soon, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And with that, I'll see you later. Have a good one.